I want to talk schools now because there's a sort of private school fight back over that VAT raid in January. And when you want to talk about people who know about proper and real education, there's only one man you need. The legend is Chris McGovern, chairman for the Campaign for Real Education. Chris, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And even better for my team beating West Ham last Saturday. Sorry.
Who do you support?
I'm a Villa man. I'm a Brummie.
Can you just cut him off? I honestly, why have you done that to me? Listen, we were utterly rubbish, and I couldn't. I mean, you were good, but we were honestly that right. If that is the best you can do when you spend 140 million, I think there'll be murmurings of unrest by Christmas. But there we go. Thanks for winding me up. I know why you support Villa, just because the next king does. Your opinion, please. Private school leaders have warned the state sector is heading for foreseeable disaster unless Labour's VAT rate is delayed until next year. Head teachers, bursars and chairs of governance around 50 schools have signed a letter, Chris, to the Treasury warning that state schools risk being overwhelmed by a mid-year surge in demand for school places that has not been forecast. The letter also accused the government of trying to rush through the consultation period during the summer holidays and called for it to be extended until the end of October. Your thoughts on this?
Well, these heads of private schools, and I was one of them, though I spent a lot of my career in state schools, I also finished my career in a private school. They are right to sound the alarm, but to be honest, they're a bit late. You know, they're waking up a bit late. Things aren't good. What the government is doing is throwing some red meat to as far left as extreme left, and they like that, and they're certainly going to do what they say they're going to do. They're going to be the first country in the world to tax education. The problem is, of course, and this is what's been said in this letter written by these head teachers, is that this will put a lot of pressure on state schools because they're going to have to take children from schools which close. So therefore, they're going to be under pressure. But even worse news, Jeremy, is that those parents who currently can afford private schools but can't in the future because of VAT, they're going to make sure they live in areas where the best state schools are. So what you're going to see, therefore, is that poorer children are going to miss out doubly, if you like, because they're going to be in oversized classes, but actually they won't get into the best state schools because those mostly middle-class parents, let's face it, but there are some children on bursaries, mostly middle-class parents send their kids to private schools. Now they'll send them to the best state schools. There's a no-win situation, so it's a bit late in the day for the heads to complain, but anyway, they complain and they're right to complain, but I don't think it'll wash with the government.
I must say it's something that I feel really, really strongly about. I object to this notion amongst the Labour Party, or this assumption, I should say, that every single person who sends their child to a private school is that minted they're not going to be bothered by a 20% increase. I hear all the arguments about, you know, what about the state education system? Firstly, you're dead right. What it will do for all the people who think it's just there are, and I give my parents, I did it last week as an example, they decided, God rest their souls in heaven, to spend 60% of their income on mine and my brother's education. Their choice. Some will say they should, that was their choice. They didn't have foreign holidays. They worked hard. That was what they did. So what you're saying now to my dad then is you go to work, get taxed, pay your fees for your sons to be educated and miss out on things, and we're going to doubly tax you. That's an unbelievable assumption, I think. And you're absolutely right, Chris, when you say, what does that do to the comprehensive schools? They're not private schools, because what will happen, thousands of kids will be taken out of private education and they will flood the market. And the very people that Labour purports to worry about, the kids who aren't apparently getting the education, and I understand the divide, I get it, right? I get it. They're going to be worse off than they were before.
They are. They lose in every respect, don't they? And it's strange because a couple of weeks ago we were celebrating how well we were doing in the Olympic Games. Well, half of those Olympic Games medal winners are private schools. And private schools, 7%, but they do incredibly well. They're a beacon of excellence all around the world. I sometimes go on about how good the education system is in Singapore, in Shanghai, and South Korea and so forth. But rich parents in Singapore and so on, they're sending their kids to our best private schools because they are excellent. But now they're going to become even more exclusive. which is incredibly sad and ridiculous, because what we really need to do, Jeremy, is to make the state schools here far better. If we'd kept grammar schools, there wouldn't be anywhere near so many private schools around anyway.
Why did they get rid of grammar schools? What was the big problem with a grammar school, Chris? Was it seen as elitist, was it?
It was seen as elitist. We wanted a more equal society. Look, I failed the 11+, and I went to secondary modern school for 2 years. I passed at 13. So I know all about the unfairness of the system. But to be honest, I favoured grammar schools. I think they're a good thing. It's horses for courses. Academic kids need to be in grammar schools. We want really good technical schools for children who aren't academic. Get away from the snobbery that somehow academics superior to manual work. It isn't. The plumbers and electricians and so forth, roofers, bricklayers, they're all incredibly important to get incredibly well paid. But anyway, that's why we got rid of the grammar schools. They were seen as elitists. And then we got rid of the grammar school exam, which was called the O-level, which, by the way, they still have in Singapore. We got rid of the O-level and had this GCSE, which is coming out tomorrow, So that was
big day tomorrow, GCSE results. If you're listening, the very best of luck with those. I'm just uneasy with the state telling me, thank you for paying all your tax. You're making a choice how to spend your money. We're going to tax you again. To me, and I've said it already, in 7 short weeks, this government has shown itself to be exactly what it is, which is a socialist government. I'm amazed, Chris McGovern, that more people didn't damn well realise that. I get messages all the time, and I can't believe they're giving all these pay rises to union. There's a $3 billion shortfall and the taxes are going to go up. They said they wouldn't. They wanted to get elected, didn't they?
Absolutely. And of course, some of us did see it coming. But because the private schools are very good, and we have some very good state schools, it's important our education system succeeds. Because I've often said, if you want to see our economy in 20 years' time, look at our education system today. It's doing okay in some areas, and there's some beacons of excellence, particularly in the private sector, but it's not doing well enough. We've got to remember tomorrow when those results come out, we will applaud the kids. They can only do what's in front of them, but we're about 3 or 4 years behind those kids in Singapore. It's a really, it's a battle really here. We've got to do better. And one way we can do better is to emulate and copy the private schools, and not to try and replace them and say, well, you've all got to go together. We don't like the idea that some schools are better than others. No, we need to raise the quality in state schools. And we used to do that.
And how do you, just very quickly, how do you raise the quality? Is it money? Is it different? Is it making the job more attractive to a different class of teacher? What is it that essentially says, I'm going to make that... There are plenty of great state schools that do an amazing job and have done a brilliant, brilliant job. But how do you take it that stage further? That, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Well, the amazing thing is, but it's not necessarily the message the teaching profession wants to hear. It's not about money. We spend more money per head on education in this country than most other countries around the world. The problem is the majority of staff in schools are not teachers. We need to pay teachers really well. That means getting rid of some of the bean counters and the administrators and the support staff, some of them. We've got to pay them well because we need excellent teachers. We should reward excellence. The quality, the numbers of children in the class, for example, doesn't matter so much. If you go to those parts of Asia where they have 50 in the class, they're outperforming us. And they've got, you go to Vietnam, which is...
Are you saying...
How they're doing it? Because, how they're doing it, they've got good old-fashioned... I say old-fashioned in a positive sense, old-fashioned teaching methods which we left them, which work. We to do these days, it's all child-centred, children sitting around tables and contemplating their navel. They need to be taught properly, and they are taught. Years ago, we used to send missionaries to China to convert them. Now they're sending missionaries here to teach us how to teach mathematics. They're in British
my God, that's awful.
That's what's going on.
And so what, we've become softer with our techniques? What? Because you're absolutely right, because presumably it would be fair to say that a strict education and an education based on all the things that education used to be on has greater results, Chris.
Far better results. And some of those schools in those poorer countries do better than us. Wow. I remember I was at the BBC a few years ago, parachuting 6 Chinese teachers into what was called the best comprehensive school in the country. And the teachers of China, from China, said the kids were appallingly badly behaved. Nevertheless, those Chinese kids did raise the standards in that school. Those Chinese teachers did raise the standard in that school. Look, Singapore, 70 years ago, was a British colony, mostly illiterate, mostly innumerate. They had a leader called Lee Kuan Yew, brilliant prime minister, who educated here. He lifted that country from the bottom to the top. So can you improve things? Yes, you can. How do you do it? Restore sensible teaching methods and have high-quality teachers and pay them well.
Couldn't agree more. Chris McGovern, always a pleasure, never a chore. Thank you so much indeed, Chairman of the Campaign for Real Education.